You know, it's amazing what can happen. What a concept! When there's no monsoon that Oregon has to deal with, when there's no downpour that Oregon has to deal with, when they don't have to deal with the elements, it's amazing what can happen. The Ducks can flex every single muscle that they have on the offensive side of the ball. A commanding 42-13 win for the Quacks on Friday night over the Minnesota Golden Gophers. I'm here to recap and react to it all. That Show Out West Reaction Edition begins, right about now.
This place has everything. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
That performance deserves a holy wallawa.
It's a feeling you cannot explain.
This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon.
And welcome to That Show Out West for That Team Out West Reaction Edition. I'm Ted LaRue. Before we dive into what happened between the lines in this game, I want to address something. Jason Benetti and Robert Griffin III on this call kept me entertained for the entire 60 minutes. I freaking love it. You know, once we got kind of to the back half of the second quarter, I think we all kind of knew what this game was going to be. But these guys kept me engaged for the entire game. And it was what? 10:30, 11:30 p.m. local time. I was tired. I was beat. It was a long day, but I enjoyed every single second of it. I love Jason Benetti. Maybe I'll tackle more on that in a different video or in a different show or maybe on a different platform in the future. Robert Griffin III, he might not ever be the lead analyst for a given network. You know, he's a little bit quirky. Maybe he's a little bit weird, but he's really good at his job and he knows who he is and he plays that role to a T. So I wanted to get that out of the way right away. I was extremely entertained. For those of you at Autzen Stadium, maybe go check it out on the rewatch. You will be entertained as well. All right, let's get into this matchup. Why don't we? It was nice weather, beautiful weather up in the Pacific Northwest in Eugene, Oregon. And it's amazing what can happen when Oregon has every tool in their toolbox available to them on the offensive side of the ball. An extremely balanced offensive outing for Dante Moore, this run game, Will Stein, and this entire offense. 510 yards of total offense for the Ducks on this specific night. Look, in multiple facets of this football game, things just looked easy. Things look smooth for the Ducks, and we haven't seen that really since the Rutgers game. It's been a minute. It's been a few weeks since we've seen this machine kind of run the way that we saw it run on Friday night against Minnesota. Like you look before the Rutgers game, you have the Indiana game. So over the last month, these two games are really the performances that you look at where this machine looks like it's humming. So this is definitely a confidence boosting type of performance going into these two games that are very highly anticipated. More on that at the end of this reaction. Like I talk about this thing looking easy. I talk about this thing looking smooth. I mean, 6 of the first 7 drives, they go into the end zone for touchdowns, and they're hitting big plays. I mean, you got a 39-yard touchdown run from Jordan Davison. Holy crap. No, not holy crap. Holy wallawa. The way he's kind of running one way, just puts his foot in the ground on a safety and just cuts 45 degrees the other way. Amazing. There was a pass he caught out of the backfield, just puts his foot in the ground and just completely goes the other way, and he's able to get by a defender or two to get some extra yardage. His cutting ability, wow. What else can you say right now? So I mentioned those two plays, and then I mentioned that play, and then grouped with the second play and those aforementioned 2 plays. Noah Whittington with the Beastquake, 40 yards. The quake that almost never was. You got to hold on to that ball, young man. It was his son's birthday on Friday night, so he's kind of taking home a little bit of a birthday present for his son over there. So congratulations to the Whittington family. They are going to be celebrating. And not only that were they able to do it with the run game, and the run game just continues to churn out another really good performance, but also the pass game. How about 4 pass plays of 20-plus yards in the first half? When we're talking about the first half, because that's where Oregon, of course, really started to separate. This one was 28-6 at the break. How about Moore? 18 of 20, 200 yards and a touchdown in the first half. And when all was said and done in this ball game for Dante, 27 of 30. He completed 90% of his passes, which is an Oregon record with a minimum of 20 passing attempts. Crazy efficiency in this ball game, over 300 yards and 2 scores. But more on Dante in just a little bit. Just an overall balanced attack, creating plays in the run game, creating plays in the pass game. Threw the ball 33 times for a total of 331 yards when you factor in the Brock Thomas stuff. Ran the ball 30 times for 179. That's 6 yards per carry. It doesn't matter. I said that in the preview. I don't care who's on the defensive side of the ball. Keep on doing what you're good at. And what you're good at right now is running the football. But they also look pretty damn good throwing the football as well. It looked easy. It looked smooth. And I think that's what everybody coming into this game wanted it to look like, certainly. Let's talk about Dante a little bit. He didn't really, as expected, the deep ball really wasn't maybe a primary option. Let's kind of just put it that way for Oregon when you're down Dacorian Moore. I know Gary Bryant Jr. mostly works out of the slot, but when you're kind of down that option as well, you got Malik Benson out there, Justice Lowe, Cooper Perry, Jeremiah McClellan. I thought J-Mac, you had that touchdown a little bit later in the ballgame. I thought we would see a little bit more thrown in the direction of Jeremiah McClellan, but it wasn't meant to be, I guess, on this particular evening. But Dante did what Dante took. Let me put it this way. Dante took what Minnesota was willing to give him. It was a lot of underneath stuff. It was a lot of that shorter stuff, but he was extremely efficient, of course, working off of that great run game that I talked about before. And it was all about the tight ends, man. This was the game of the tight end. If you've been looking for tight ends to get more involved in the Oregon offense, this is the game that you point to and say, yeah, that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. Oregon tight ends combined 14 catches, 176 yards, and a touchdown. And Kenyon Sadiq, whether it's been with the lingering injury or maybe them Oregon not targeting him as much, whatever it was, this game was certainly maybe a reversal of that trend that we've seen throughout the season, because they were looking to go to him. They knew that he was going to be their top passing target in a much clearer day where the passing game was going to be a lot more of an option. And coming off of an injury, Kenyon played awesome. 8 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. He was very difficult to defend. Let's just put it that way for Minnesota. You saw him matched up on some linebackers. You saw him matched up on some smaller defenders as well. This is what we've been talking about since the summer. He's a matchup nightmare. And we saw it against a variety of guys certainly tonight. How about Jamari Johnson? 4 catches, 57 yards. It's not overly surprising that the tight ends did what they did in this game, considering the aforementioned injuries to the wide receiver position. Ton of 12 personnel. Whether they were lined up in the slot or out wide, or whether they were at the traditional tight end position, H-back position, whatever it was going to be 12 city. Eugene was 12 city, no doubt about it, and you saw a lot of that tonight. Even Roger Salapaga, 2 catches for 25 yards. We've seen a little bit more of him as the season has gone along, so I really love what I'm seeing from the tight end position. We've seen a lot more from Jamari Johnson as of late. And I'm game for more of number 9 getting involved in this offense right now. One interesting thing, that we saw on offense, Dave Iuli and Emmanuel Pregnon switched spots. You had Iuli playing left guard, Pregnon playing right guard. I'm very interested to maybe rewind a lot of these plays in the rewatch and to see what the benefits were, what maybe if there were some downsides, what those were as well. But that was an interesting flip that kind of took place in this one. Alex Harkey was healthy. Janoris Wilson was not. So you saw him kind of get back into the lineup as well. And Isaiah World, like you had that typical starting offensive line. You just had left guard and right guard switch a little bit in this one. So run game was on point. It did what they were supposed to do. Dante delivered and he had a fantastic performance. This is exactly what we wanted to see out of the offense. An extremely efficient performance. Dante had 8 drives out there. 6 of them resulted in touchdowns. One of them was that fumble. I mean, you got a true freshman in Cooper Perry catching the ball, lateraling it behind to Deer Hill, another true freshman in a third, I think it was a 3rd and long situation after a couple of those penalties. I think Dan Lanning said at half, maybe we won't do that again. Maybe we won't do that again. But, props to the offense for gaining some confidence going into the stretch run here. I want to talk about the defense a little bit. That's one area when I go back and rewatch this game, I'm really going to focus on things maybe a lot more. I thought the defensive line played a really good game, but right now it's uncertain. Overall, Minnesota was kind of course, they were shut down offensively for the most part, but there were 2 drives that really stuck out to me. One in the first part of the ball game in the first half at some time, and then it was a 13-play, 67-yard drive in the second quarter that resulted in a field goal. I should say that, and then not great. Right out of the locker room, right out of halftime, right when you're talking to everybody, making adjustments, Minnesota, 10 plays, 80 yards down the field, multiple third downs were converted. Minnesota went 7 of 16 on third down. This is an Oregon defense, plain and simple. They got to get off the field. They got to get off the field a lot better on these third downs and stay fresh on the sideline. You have a good team. Maybe like you have USC and Washington coming up. They have more, in some cases, a lot more offensive talent than Minnesota has. They're going to be able to take advantage of that more consistently. And then when we talk about getting into the college football playoff, this is just a defense that's got to be better in that front. I thought overall, like I talked about the defensive line, you had Darius Taylor back, who was Minnesota's main running back and really their best player. 10 carries, 57 yards, and he had 23 yards on one of those carries. So I thought Minnesota overall did a pretty good job in defending that. I think Minnesota kind of saw, especially the way the game was going, where Oregon was so good on offense, they kind of turned to the passing game a little bit more. They had a little success, but not a lot of success. Drake Lindsey, 19 of 32, 138, and a touchdown within this game. So, I thought it was pretty good. But I think that, kind of looking at this, there were too many parts on a couple of those drives where I'm like, they should be better. They should be better against a team like Minnesota. I want to highlight a couple of things on defense. You saw early in this matchup, Minnesota go after Brandon Finney a lot. You saw a penalty. I thought there was another positive play that Minnesota got, but then 4 kind of settled in a little bit, and I think they learned why Brandon Finney is Brandon Finney. So that was, I think, really good for him to respond that way when the Gophers were consistently going after him on that side of the field. I thought Mateo Uyunglele played one of his better games in recent memory. There was a lot of people within the Oregon fan base that were kind of calling him out in some of his performances, especially in recent weeks. I thought he affected a lot of the plays that Minnesota had throughout this game. Maybe the numbers don't pop in the stat sheet, right? Maybe he's not getting a bunch of those sacks. I think he had 1 TFL in this matchup. But I thought he played a really good game and really impacted a lot of what Minnesota was doing out there. I also love Nasir Wyatt. Man, you saw a couple of plays where he flashes his quickness, it flashes his speed, and he even got into the game in the first quarter. So I think this Oregon, Tosh Lapoy, Dan Lanning, and this defensive staff for Oregon realizes, dude, if we get into a 3rd and 6. We get into a 3rd and 7, it might be worth bringing the speed of 32 on the field to try to beat some of these offensive tackles on the other side. He's a very different type of talent than Mateo is or Tatum Tuioti is as well. So, yeah, I'll have to look at defense, I think, a little bit more in depth to really try to figure out, okay, where is this team at going into the last two games? Because even though Washington, coming off that loss where they only scored 10 points to Wisconsin in the weather, I think that's still a Washington offense that can move the ball up and down the field. All right. So that's mainly what I have in this Oregon-Minnesota game. Going to be handing out some Holy Walawa awards probably on Monday and doing that recap show on Monday as well. But folks, this team did what they were supposed to do. It looked easy. It looked smooth. Now what? Now this is the point that everybody's been looking forward to since the spring. Everybody's been looking forward to since the summer. It's USC and it's Washington. Ever since USC, they were flipping Oregon commits. They were having a ton of success on the recruiting trail back there in the spring. And then in the summer, everybody's be like, wait till November 22nd. Wait till then. And Oregon will drop the hammer. That's what a lot of fans were saying. All right, that's when we're going to prove that this is settled on the field, not on the recruiting trail in the months of March or in the months of April as well. And this could be a big recruiting weekend if Oregon can truly drop the hammer on a USC team that could still be fighting for the college football playoff at that time. Maybe that could sway some things as we work up till signing day. But this is something that everybody has been looking forward to, especially that final regular season game at Autzen Stadium against the USC Trojans. I cannot freaking wait. I'm maybe hoping USC gets the win over Iowa, so they've still got a lot on the line when they come into Autzen Stadium and we get the best version of the Cardinal and Gold that we can get, man. These West Coast rivalry games are going to be so fun to break down. They're going to be so fun to talk about. I've been looking, just like all of you, I've been looking forward to these games for a very long time. Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Rutgers, Northwestern, all these games. Indiana, unfortunately, with the loss. All these games are behind you. Now is the time to kick it into another gear. And I've got to imagine that the emotions are going to be very high these next couple of weeks. We'll see how the Ducks end up playing. I can't wait to wait and find out. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of That Show Out West Reaction Edition. Ducks win 42-13. Until we see you in the next one, have a good one. I'm Ted LaRue. This has been That Show Out West Reaction Edition.